Good evening and welcome to the LinkedIn audio event. This is the very first time we are trying something very innovative, and this time we thought to do a live or audio live on LinkedIn. And so here we are. My name is Abhishek. I'm the client advisor for Briskinfosec. I take care of the services to be recommended to the customers. So we thought today to take up something very, very important topic for a LinkedIn audio event, which we talk to everyone. And the topic title of the topic today is things that cannot be solved by SSL/TLS. We all know what is SSL, secure socket layer, and TLS, transport layer security. Now, why is it so relevant today? It's very relevant because people think, or most of us think that if we have got SSL or TLS certificate, we are safe. So I really wanted to discuss in detail, and to discuss this in detail, since the topic is related to networking, I have a very, very special person today, and his name is Venkat. And Venkat is a senior security engineer. He specializes in networking, which means this SSL and TLS is something that is very dear and near to him. So today, Venkat, thank you so much for joining today and coming onto the show.
Hey, Abhishek. Firstly, I would like to thank you for inviting me for this event.
Mine. No worries. So, Venkat, thank you so much for joining here today. The first thing that I want to ask you today, let's get into the kickstart of the question is, what is the difference between an SSL and TLS? Because people keep on getting confused between SSL and TLS, and what's the difference. So you are the right person for me. Do tell us to our audience specifically that what is the difference between SSL and TLS.
Okay, Abhishek. So basically, SSL and TLS are both cryptographic protocols that provide security for internet communications. They're often used to secure web browsing sessions, online banking, and other sensitive online activities. They do this by encrypting and authenticating the user as well as the connection between the two machines. Basically, it prevents eavesdroppers. So I think you know about eavesdroppers. Yeah, from seeing sensitive information like transaction card details or username and passwords. So basically, if you ask me like what is the exact difference between the SSL and the TLSs, so both are the same. The TLS is actually the successor version of SSL version of SSL. Yeah. So the SSL's final version is actually the 3.0. So, but during that time, that particular version was very, very vulnerable. It has so many issues actually. So that they came up with another solution, which is a transport layer security. So they actually started with TLS 1.0. So currently we are actually at 3.3, TLS 1.3. So that is our latest version of SSL that we are actually using, right?
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. The one latest we use is TLS 5. So thank you so much for summarizing about this. Thanks a lot.
Sorry, did I say TLS 5?
Yeah, what do you say?
It's TLS 1.3.
Okay, sorry, my bad. Yeah. TLS 1.3. Thank you so much for putting that in perspective. Now coming to a very, very important question, being in cybersecurity, and when I go out and talk to so much of clients, they ask a very pertinent question to me. The question goes something like this. Example: a business owner, he says that the moment they get the SSL certificate, they think that they are very much safe. They have deployed the SSL certificate. They are unhackable. Now, I want the truth from you. How far this is a truth that SSL certificate makes everybody safe? That's it. Nobody can hack us. Is it so true?
First of all, that is actually a good question, Abhishek. So, but the answer is actually it is not true. Even after implementing SSL certificate, it is still hackable. So they are actually still hackable, and many people thinks that I have an SSL, so I'm actually protected. So I think that is a very big misconception everyone has. And if you ask me, the best example for these kind of things are actually the data breaches. If you see like so many big companies, they actually have a very good SSL protection, but still there are actually so many data breaches are actually happening. So I don't know how this misconception actually came. Like we are actually protected. So before starting that, first everyone needs to understand the main reason on why we actually implement SSL certificate. The main reason. Main reason is it is because it is to encrypt your data transmission between two devices.
Right.
Okay. The SSL certificate is just one of the many security measures the company can protect their website, application, or servers. But it is not guaranteed that your sites or your application will be 100% hack proof. Okay. And also you cannot be sure that all your customer data is actually secure or safe. Okay. But one thing about the SSL is that it is true that the SSL do provide some protection against hacking, all the illegal activities, but still it fails to give the complete protection. So that is the main thing everyone needs to understand. Okay. But basically, why in the sense, why I'm actually saying that, like, not complete protection, because SSL will protect only the transmission data on the transport layer. Only the transport layer it is actually protecting. Okay, because we also already have like application, presentation layer, so many layers are there. Only transmission layer is transport layer is actually protecting. Okay. So when an attacker tries to hack this certificate, it will makes him difficult to intercept the data. Basically it is very difficult to intercept the data, and it is very difficult to impersonate websites and or stealing any important information from the customers, or any customers, sorry, any computers or any smartphones while they're actually browsing into in their websites or any other websites. But still, hacker could able to decrypt those data. If he try to intercept those connections, he could able to decrypt the data if they have a high processing systems, high processing systems. But one thing is, like, it is little bit difficult to decrypt. It takes time to think. And so for this questions, I just want to add some my real time experience, because I have seen so many SSL certificate related issues during my assessments. It could be anything like network or web. So any assessments, there are so many issues I actually identified. I actually come up. So the first thing is, many people actually securing their data only on the external communication. Yeah. So what about the internal one? So internal network is actually, most of the companies, they don't use the SSL certificate internal for the internal applications and everything. Okay. And some of the internal application servers till the end devices. Okay, like you'll be having internal application service and the end devices, right? The application, the users who's using those applications, they're actually not encrypted. Okay. But the thing is, like, even if they actually this is not the data encryption in their internal network. There is no data encryption. But you can say, like, okay, some of they're actually using SL certificate in their internal networks. If you ask me, in my experience, I have seen so many certificates are actually using, but all are actually self-signed certificates. Self-signed.
That's really something shocking, right? Self-signed certificates.
Yeah. So they're actually self-signed certificates. So one problem about self-signed certificate is, so whenever you want to buy any certificates, so there is actually an organization who they call it as a certificate authority. Okay. So those people will provide you the certificate with a strong encryption. So that is actually be secure. So for that purpose, we will use a certificate from the certificate authority. But uh, for the internal application, they don't want to spend much money to buy certificates from the certificate authority. So they're planning to create their own self-signed certificate. Creating a self-signed certificate is very, very easy, Abhishek. Within 2 steps, you can able to create your own certificates. So there is actually an open source tool called OpenSSL. So yeah, OpenSSL. So that you can easy. It's very, very easy. But here the big problem is, I will strongly recommend that you should not use self-signed certificate. Why? In the sense, while they create the self-signed certificate, they don't know, like, which encryption should I use. So they don't do much R&D on that. So they just simply create a certificate and just deploy it. And also I have seen so many cases like, uh, if you're creating a certificate, there is a thing called certificate validity. So this certificate should be applicable for this amount of this much amount of time. So that is the validity, right? So I have seen so many cases like they actually created the certificate validity is 10 years. Okay. So that is a big problem actually, Abhishek. uh, 10.
10 years is a really big thing. A certificate valid for 10 years.
Yeah. And why I'm actually saying that is a big problem is, let's say internal machine actually got compromised. Okay. Most of the time all the certificate related keys are actually stored in their machine. Okay. Let's say if that internal device got compromised, the attacker could easily able to take that particular key, and he could intercept all the data. Using that key he can able to decrypt all the data, even if you are using a strong encrypted certificate. Okay. So this is actually the real thing happening actually. Even I also personally did this attack by myself. It's a very easy one, Abhishek, actually, to be honest. But that is what I'm saying, like, uh, if you're using a self-signed certificate, I would strongly recommend that you should not use a self-signed certificate. Still, if you are going to use a self-signed certificate, make sure you use it, like, you make sure you create a certificate with a strong encryption. And also don't create a certificate with a longer period, like the validity.
10 years or
Yeah,
something.
not
That's too long.
that's too long. Minimum 1 year, because
That's
anyways you're going to create the certificate for free, right? Like each year you just change the certificate. So that is a main thing. That is the one thing I want to highlight. And the other thing is like, sorry, I forgot to tell you one thing about the self-signed certificate on. Uh, Whenever application is actually implemented with the self-signed certificate, right? Have you ever tried to open that particular application in your browser? Have you seen what kind of message displays?
It's unsecured. The site is unsecured.
Yeah, yeah, security warning.
I think the site is unsecured. You can't access it.
Yeah, yeah. So that is a message you'll see.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So whenever you see that particular warning message,
Correct.
what you will do? Obviously, you will just go advance, and you will click proceed to that website.
Exactly.
Okay. So here, what is the big problem is, all like so many employees are actually using that particular application on their daily basis. So they keep get used to it by seeing that particular warning.
Correct.
Okay, what if they're getting some emails from an unknown person? Over there is actually a link. Okay. A link, some phishing or malicious link is there. They click it. Okay. When they click it, the same security warning sign appears.
Correct.
Okay. So all the employees has that particular mindset. Okay, this is not a big problem, so we already using it in our own application. So what is the problem? So they just click it, and they will become a target for attackers.
Correct.
So this is actually the main problem while using a self-signed certificate. So but my main recommendation is, don't use the certificate, don't use the self-signed certificate. That is the main recommendation.
Thank you, Venkat. That makes all the sense of not at all making your own self-signed certificates. Especially if you're going to make it, then don't have the validity of like 10 years. And don't make it a habit, because then the employees also get into habituated mode of having an unsecure connection, and they're bypassing it, and soon it becomes a habit. And one day that blunder will cost you a lot of things. You have something to add? Please go ahead.
Yeah. um, there is other thing also I need to add, like, let's say if you are using the same self-signed certificate or a weak encrypted certificate. Okay. Or even you got the certificate from the certificate authority, but the let's say the encryption is weak. That time, if you use that particular certificate in your applications and you are giving those applications to your customers, what if they react when they see that particular browser warnings? Over there, the business trustworthy, the customer trust, everything is gone.
Yes.
So well, if you're not able to invest on a certificate, so your custom your what do you say, like your business is gone. Business will be in
Yeah, the credibility will be lost in the eye of customer. If you're not able to take care of a simple certificate for encryption, how will you take care of my business? So it will have a huge ramification on your reputation for sure. Thank you so much, Venkat, for bringing so many other case studies, and I'm sure the listeners and the audiences there would have clearly understood that what are the steps, and there are people out there who do self-signed certificate, and what are the possible outcomes that can into. So now coming to my penultimate question, is like we here in Briskinfosec, what are the services being provided to ensure the protection of companies having an SSL certificate? So I am a company, I have an SSL certificate. After hearing your podcast, I do realize that hey, I need to go and check it out with Venkat. If there's something else that we can do to secure all the layers and not just the communication layer? What is it? What are the services?
Okay, so in our Briskinfosec, we are actually providing gap assessment,
Okay.
especially for SSL protocols and certificates. Because why actually we are giving this particular kind of assessment is, during our recent assessment, we have came to know that so many old version of protocols are still enabled on so many servers, on the production servers. So why I'm actually pinpointing this, like old version of protocols, what will they do actually, what will happen? So in my opinion, that is actually not a good thing, good practice, I mean the best practice to follow. um, so currently, the current version of the SL protocol is the TLS 1.3. So many people are actually adapting. They are actually trying to adapt to that particular protocol. Still, if you ask me, TLS 1.2 is a better one. Okay, but so many people are actually still using the older version of protocol, where attacker can easily able to downgrade the SSL and force the server to respond in that particular protocol. Let's say I'm actually choosing TLS 1.0, the server also will respond me on 1.0. So during that time, I can able to sniff all the traffic, and I can able to use some tools and techniques to decrypt the ciphertext to the plain text. So that is actually the major issue. So we are actually specifically focusing on the gap assessment for SSL related stuff. And during our VAPT sessions, it is mandatory to cover all the cryptographic attacks as well. It could be like a network VAPT. So because during our network VAPT, not only the website has the SSL protocols, SSL certificates. Even inside their services, for example, like RDP. So these kind of services are also using SSL certificates. So we'll make sure that we will cover the cryptographic attacks as well in the network VAPT, as well as web application, API, mobile application as well. So we'll cover over here. And during the ISO implementation. So we also recommend, and we will identify what are the cryptographic attacks available on their environment, as well as how to mitigate them. Okay, and it is also applicable for the GRC practices as well. So we are actually doing those services.
Thank you so much, Venkat, for highlighting this. Definitely, gap analysis and the cryptographic assessments to identify the level of encryption really helps a lot. And as you rightly said, it's integrated also in the GRC. So there's multi-pronged approach, not just one way. Towards gap analysis is one. As part of the infrastructure assessment, the cryptographic analysis is one, and thirdly coming to the GRC. Thank you so much. So this was a wrap up from our end today. Do we have any questions today? Listeners, thank you. There are 7 listeners online. I just wanted to ask if any one of us you have any question for the SSL. We have Mohammed, we have Lakshmi, Siva, Santosh, Angel, Aishwarya, Joshi. If you guys have any question, do let us know for another minute or so. Otherwise, we'll have a wrap up about this one, and we can continue next. I think our audiences are thinking. We can take your questions. Please do email us as contact@briskinfosec.com, where we can take the questions further. Now, coming up to the end of the part, just to summarize the whole conversation that we have today with Venkat, SSL and TLS are just the encryption of the layers, and definitely they don't offer 100% security. That's pretty much clear. There are a lot of other ways that a hacker can get into your system, your applications. This is not the only way. So let's debunk this myth. And that's why we have a different kind of assessment, the infrastructure assessment, as Venkat rightly pointed out, that is there in GRC. We're doing cryptography analysis, and yeah, these are the things that we can do to check where does the company stand in terms of the application and digital assets, because SSL and TLS is not the end of the world for cybersecurity. Another thing that's very important happening before I summarize is that we have to understand one thing, that the whole thing about cryptography is the more complex you make on the bits side, it's very difficult to decrypt. Unfortunately, what we studied, or the current update that I got today just before the podcast, is that supercomputers or the quantum computers can make it very, very possible. The more level of encryption you have, the more time the hackers take. On a normal computer, 7 to 8 years to decrypt your data. Unfortunately, on a quantum computer, it might take few minutes or even few seconds. And China has built up a phenomenal level of quantum computing, which means China can decrypt any one of us whenever they want in few minutes or few seconds. And for that, they have also launched quantum satellites. We're going to talk more about in the next talk about the greatest revolution in SSL industry is about quantum cryptography. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. We'll be joined by speakers like Venkat and his likes, and we'll take this SSL topic to further other level. So thank you so much for joining in today, all the listeners, and thank you so much, Venkat, for joining us today. With this, we'll call a wrap up, and we'll wait for the next time. Thank you so much, audiences. Have a very fantastic good evening and stay safe. Thank you.
Hey, thanks,